Howdy folks, it's Age with the Hunting Gear Guy. This is the Norinco CF98. It's a 9mm pistol. They're $250 here in Canada. Made in China. Pretty inexpensive. My magazine's empty. And as you can see there, my chamber's empty. So we're clear to look at this gun. So number one important feature, $250. Yeah, that's an important feature. In terms of other things that it can do, well, it's a double action, single action, which means you can pull the trigger like that, or after your first shot, you can pull the trigger like that. So that's a little bit handy. It does make for a lighter trigger pull. And how light? Well, let's dust off my trigger pull scale here and find out. Kind of curious myself because I've got my guesses as to what kind of weight it's going to be, but it's always nice to just try it. So let's just pull it slowly to the rear there. First, let's make sure that this thing's ready to go. And let's pull that back, straight back into the gun. Just under 4 pounds, which is fine. It's fine for a single action. Will this thing be able to pull the double action? Doubt it. Double action is pretty stiff on this thing. Over. Somewhere like 12 plus pounds. The double action is not nice. But the single action is fine. And really, I mean, all you got to do is pull through that. In terms of functionality on this thing, we've got a safety decocker combo. So that means that when we push it up, we'll get it to decock, and the trigger is dead. This is ambidextrous, so I'm not using the power of my mind to turn this off or on or anything like that. So once we put it back on fire, then we've got that double action. So the normal MO on a gun like this is normally to you load it up, you rack the slide, now there's a round in the chamber, you decock it, you take it off safety, and you holster it. Now it's ready to go. Double action when you pull it out. That would be pretty normal for a gun like this. It is a rotating barrel, so as you rotate the barrel, that one's never going to focus. Here, let's see if I can get this one to focus on the gun and not me, please. You can see that it rotates just a little bit. There's actually 8 lugs in there that it uses to lock the barrel into the slide with very little rotation, which is interesting-ish. Why don't we go ahead and take this thing apart? Now, before we do that, one thing that is different, there's a couple of videos that talk about the earlier versions of these things. The later versions, like this one, have better magazines. That's one of the big differences. The earlier ones had like a metal base plate. This one's got quite a bit of a wider one, and the reason why that's important, the grips on these things are tiny. Like my hand is just gigantic on this handgun. This base plate adds some meat to it and gives me just a little bit more at the bottom. Whereas the old one didn't have that one. And the old one had a double feed magazine as well. This one has single feed, like any standard handgun does these days. So that's a little bit more up to date. To disassemble this handgun, it's quite easy. We've got a little disassembly point there on the slide stop. So that's all that we're going to do is press on that little guy. Click it out. You can do that anywhere. You don't need to pull the slide back like you do on some handguns. Pull that out. There's our slide stop, and then let the hammer go forward, and we can just pull it right off. Now this is a little bit interesting. We've got this this block here that kind of rides along in the gun as it reciprocates. To take this off, what we're going to need to do is kind of just pull it and pull it right off, just like that. This lug assembly has a little guide in it that kind of guides and rotates the barrel. And then we've got our recoil spring and recoil spring guide. And they just come right out. So very easy to clean. If you need to clean the barrel, I like taking the barrel right out of the gun. To do that, we've got a rotating barrel locking lug like that. Barrel bushing. And you can see those lugs in there. See those? This guy here is the guide to rotate it, and then we've got all those different little lugs in there. So we just pull this guy right out, and you can see we've got lots of lugs on there just going on. Now to pull the extractor out, what you're going to need to do is grab your kit, and inside the kit there's going to be this cleaning rod. Normally you just like put a bit of cleaning patch through there and run it through your barrel, run it through this way, and clean your barrel out. But it also has a little pick on there that you will need, and this pick can be used to, where am I here? get into right there and push on that plunger and then pull the extractor out. I'm not going to do that for you right now because I'll tell you a little bit later, but that's not what the buyers of this handgun are going to care about. Once that's done, then you can push down on that plunger, pull it out of the way, pull the firing pin out of there, and away you go. To put it back in, we're just going to rotate the barrel back in there. We're going to grab this doohickey here. We're going to take the spring. Oh, I need my barrel bushing. Put your barrel bushing in. Rotate. In she goes. Spring goes in there. And I want to link up this groovy bit on the bottom there with that pokey outy bit at the back here. I like it to use the technically correct language, if you will. And just put it on there. Oh, it didn't like spring off and kill anyone. Cool. And actually, this block here at the back is really what's doing the guiding of the slide. So it's sitting inside these metal rails and moving back and forth on this gun to do all the guiding for this thing. So it's important. Oh, the lower, the frame. It's got something interesting on it. It comes out. Just binds a little bit on the trigger as it comes out there, and boop, there you go. There's your chassis. There's your plastic frame with the magazine release on it, and this terrible lanyard loop that if you really grip on it, it's going to hit your hands. So this would make it easy to, I guess, fix in the field and that kind of a thing. To put it back in, we're just going to reach at the back there, and then we need to pull the trigger a little bit to get it to fit through that hole in the bottom. There she goes, and down into place. Very easy. Once you know how to do it, it's very easy. If you were to try to do this with just having knowledge of regular pistols and you tried taking this thing apart, it can be a little bit challenging. I'm going to place it on here, and I want to get that lug on the block, which you can see. Oh, you can't see. Can you see? Yeah, you can see right in there. There's the lug, and it's sitting inside the block. When I put it back on here, the first thing I'm going to do is that block needs to fit on these rails. So that's the bit that I'm getting in. Get her on there. Look until I can see kind of light between there. There's going to be a bit of a half moon. That's the back of the recoil spring, and it's going to actually lock onto this bit right here. So I'm going to put it on there. I'm going to just push straight down and hope that I don't scratch the side of the slide. And I didn't. Okay, neat. By the way, the finish on this slide is pretty thin looking. I don't think it's going to last very long, but oh well. Function test. I'm empty and my magazine is empty here. Empty chamber. Yeah, nothing in there. So I'm going to test the single action. Yeah, it works. Double action. Yeah, it works. Now, one thing to note, this thing's got a really long reset. Like, you need to practically take your finger right off of it. Like, that's not enough. That's enough right there. And even the single action has a pretty long reset on it and pretty long trigger travel. So who'd even want one of these things? Well, a couple of different reasons I'll throw at you. They're inexpensive. They're $250, $269 on sale kind of a thing. So the price is good. The grip on them is very small, so if you have someone with small hands, they're a good handgun for that kind of a thing. Primarily the price. Primarily the price is really good on here. I'm going to link to my video on other inexpensive handguns somewhere here. I got a video and I've got an article on it. That'll give you some options, and the reason why you need options is some people out there have a handgun license but don't own a handgun. And the Liberal Party of Canada just released their new, like a brand new handgun freeze. What they called it. It's kind of like a ban or a grandfathering, but not a ban or a grandfathering. Basically, if you have one, you can still go to the range and use it so far. And if you don't have a handgun, tough luck. And whatever you have is whatever you're going to have forever. So that's it. So a couple things to consider. One, if you've got the money, don't buy one of these. Go buy like CZ Shadow 1, CZ Shadow 2. They're nicer shooters. They're fantastic. They fit most people, and they're great for IPSC and that kind of a thing. What if you don't have the money? What if you don't have the money and this just came and you weren't expecting it? It's an option. It's not I wouldn't say this is like a great handgun. There's a couple of things that are quite big shortcomings in my opinion. One, the sights are really poor. I think you might be able to overcome it. You could probably very carefully drill that front sight and use a fiber optic rod in it, and then the rear sights, just black them out, and then you would have blacked rear sights and a fiber optic front. Reliability wise, this thing was fine for me. The reliability was good. I have read that the barrels are only good for 8,000 rounds, so consider that. If you're gonna shoot 8,000 rounds though, just buy a better handgun than this one. I mean, it's a fun little gun, and if you need something to put in the safe to say that you have a handgun, there's worse options than this one, like the Terra TM9 that's sitting up somewhere over here, and that's probably going to be its permanent life now. It's living there, unless I can sell it to someone. Anyways, yeah, it's not a great competition handgun. It's okay for like dicking around, and for us in Canada, with what we're faced with right now, maybe that's all we can hope for. But if you have an RPAL and you don't have a handgun, I'd recommend that you go buy a handgun, any handgun. And when the time for voting comes around, vote for the people who don't want to ban your handgun and take it away from you, because it's totally silly. If you look at the stats in Toronto, the crime guns that they seize there, 80% of them are from the U.S. So why are we dicking around? Why are we punishing the law-abiding gun owners by trying to seize their handguns when their handguns are a much smaller portion of the problem? And those handguns that are part of the problem have been stolen, or the legal gun owner did something illegal with them, which is pretty rare. Yeah, it just doesn't seem. And then the other thing to consider is that criminals who need handguns, if they can't get them through stealing, they'll go to their primary source, smuggling them from the U.S. And that's how they're getting them right now. And they would just supply the missing ones directly from the U.S. Just throw a couple of extra handguns in the trunk of their car and bring them over. The government has said that they're going to increase penalties from 10 to 14 years, but come on, like that's not going to do anything. That's not going to do anything to stem the smuggling issue. This is purely for try to get votes and distract people from the horrible inflation that we're seeing right now, and try to throw a red herring out there and make the people think about something else. But I'll stop rambling. If you have an RPAL and no handgun and you're in Canada, go buy a handgun. It's going to be hard to get used. There's going to be a run on them. Get whatever you can get. Thanks for watching.